There aren't enough hours in the day. How many times have you heard someone say that phrase? How many times have you said it yourself? We live demanding lives these days. We've got busy jobs, we've got families to look after. And at the end of all of that, there's never really enough time for us to do the things that we want to do for ourselves, the things that bring us a lot of joy and that we are really passionate about. But what if I told you it didn't have to be like that? What if I told you that you could make time for those things that you enjoy doing, for the things that you're really passionate about? Well, on this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how you can make time and why you should make time. Okay, let's dive right into it. So the first question you have to ask yourself, why should we make time for doing the things that we enjoy doing? Everyone will tell you how important your career is, how important your family life is, and those things are important and they're obvious priorities. But the only way we can really be optimal in being a parent or being a partner or being a good employee or being a good business person is to give ourselves time, give ourselves space to digest, to decompress from those things and really enjoy the things that we're passionate about doing. So it's really, really important that we do things that are just for us. And sometimes it does feel like there just isn't enough hours in the day. Sometimes we get to the end of a working day, we've maybe had a family to look after, we have to feed that family, we have to get kids put to bed, we maybe have some housework that we have to do, we've got life admin, all these things take time. And by the time that we get to the end of doing all those things, the last thing we feel like doing is anything overly energetic, and often it is very easy just to crash in front of the sofa, switch on Netflix, and then before you know it, you're off to bed, and then you get up the next morning and you just repeat the same day again. So it's really important that we get out of that cycle and make sure that we're making time to do things. And we're going to touch on a little bit about how we can make time. Let's dive into it. Let's go with number one, screen time. The average American is spending 4 hours per day on their mobile phone screen and 4 hours a day on their televisions watching streaming services like Netflix, Disney+, Prime Video. And that is 8 hours a day. For 5 days a week, that is 40 hours a week. That is a full-time job of time being spent on social media and streaming services. If you think about it this way, people are putting content onto these social media platforms to make money. The longer people are on the platforms, the more Facebook and other people can charge for advertising on that platform. So you're literally giving away your time, your most finite, your most precious resource, so that somebody else can make money. When you start to think about it that way, you realize that you're actually gaining nothing by spending so much time on these platforms. So how can we actually cut down on the amount of time that we spend on those platforms? The first thing is to really give it purpose. Think about why you're going to launch this app. If you're going to go into Facebook or if you're going to go into Instagram, before you launch the app, think about, why am I going in here? Am I just going in here just to see if I've got any updates? Or am I going in for a specific purpose? If we can start to be more mindful about how we use these applications on our phones, then we can really start to reduce the time that we spend on them. Cal Newport's book, Digital Minimalism, talks about this, and he talks about actually deleting all social media apps and in fact as many distracting apps as you possibly can from your phone, and living without them for 30 days. And at the end of the 30 days, not simply reinstalling everything and going back to normal, but before you actually go to install any of these apps, actually thinking, what is it I've missed about these apps? What is it that's now missing in my life that I was getting from those apps that I'm currently not getting? And if the answer's nothing, there's nothing missing, then great. You probably don't have to reinstall that app again. If there are certain things that you might want to use the app for, start thinking about, well, could I get that value from something else? Let's get into streaming services. In this digital age, we now live in a time where we have on-demand television. We have Netflix, we have Prime, we have Disney+. Here in the UK, we've got BBC iPlayer. All these platforms now exist where we can consume as much content as we want whenever we want to do it. If I go back to my parents' age, when they were my age and raising a young family, they only had terrestrial television. There was BBC One, BBC Two, ITV and Channel 4, and that was it. There was no on-demand, there was no Sky Television. That was literally it. And they had TV programs that they would watch, and they would watch them at set times every week. So their favourite show might be on at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and then they would watch that one episode, and then they would tune in again the following week. And it was a really healthy way to watch television, because we weren't losing an entire evening to watching this one show because we were able to binge watch it on demand. You watch things and you were very strategic and very purposeful about how you watch television. Now, because everything is accessible to us whenever we want it to be, this is a new distraction that we're probably the first generation to really suffer from this in effect, because it is diverting our attention away from a lot of other things that we could be doing and could be spending our time more productively. Okay, so what is another way we can make time? Stop reading the news. In this digital age that we live in now, the news is all around us all of the time. It's on on-demand TV, it's on satellite TV, it's in newspapers, it's on websites, it is on social media. There is no escaping the news when we are constantly looking at screens and looking at all these different digital outlets. News is largely negative. It's been proven that headlines and news stories that shock us are what sell newspapers, and that is why all these different outlets are largely sharing fairly negative news. So not only is it a huge consumer of our time, but it's really affecting our mental state as well. If we're constantly being exposed to all this negativity, it's naturally going to have a really negative effect on our day. If we can reduce the amount of time that we spend consuming the news, then we're far likely to have a far happier experience throughout our day, and also save ourselves a whole amount of time. You can still keep in touch with what's going on in the world by consuming the news, but doing it sparingly. Maybe at the end of the week, have a bit of a download of exactly what's been going on that week and allocate half an hour or an hour to catching up on world affairs if you really feel that you need to. But it's important to remember that most of what is in the news is largely things that are out with our control, and there's no point in worrying about these things. Our time is far better used elsewhere than consuming stuff on the news. Okay, how else can we make time? We can make time by being really purposeful about how we use our time and blocking time and spending that time on chunks of work. If we think about, for example, in a work environment, and let's say that we log on at the start of the day and we're trying to do various tasks, but constantly throughout the day people are trying to reach us on emails and on Teams messages, and that's constantly fighting for our attention and pulling us away from the work that we're trying to do and that we're trying to focus on. If we block our time through our day, we can block time for meetings, we can block time for checking emails, and then the rest of the time we close our emails, we close our Teams, and that allows us to really focus on the work that we're doing without the distraction of people constantly trying to get in touch with us. So by blocking time and putting our devices to one side, it helps us to really optimally achieve a lot of these tasks in a far shorter time period that frees up more time for us to do the things that we actually want to be doing. Okay, so what is another way that we can save time? We can end each day by writing down the things that we want to achieve the next day and having a plan of how we're going to tackle those things. If we have a desk job and we get to our desk in the morning without a clear plan of what it is we're doing that day, the chances are that we're going to get distracted, we're going to procrastinate, and we're going to go on social media, we're going to go in the news, and before you know it, you've lost 2 hours of your day, you're into your first meeting of the day, and then the rest of the days are right off because you never managed to really get sunk into the stuff that you were supposed to be doing. If we have an agenda for the following day and we block out our time in our calendar to suit that agenda, the chances are that we're going to stick to that and we're going to actually achieve those things in the time that we said that we're going to achieve them. Okay, so what is another way that we can save time? We can end each day by writing down the things that we want to achieve the next day and having a plan of how we're going to tackle those things. If we have a desk job and we get to our desk in the morning without a clear plan of what it is we're doing that day, the chances are that we're going to get distracted, we're going to procrastinate, and we're going to go on social media, we're going to go in the news, and before you know it, you've lost 2 hours of your day, you're into your first meeting of the day, and then the rest of the day's a write-off because you never managed to really get sunk into the stuff that you were supposed to be doing. If we have an agenda for the following day and we block out our time in our calendar to suit that agenda, the chances are that we're going to stick to that and we're going to actually achieve those things in the time that we said that we're going to achieve them. Okay, so how else can we make time? Let's say that we set ourselves a task, and let's say we give ourselves 5 hours to complete that task. If we've set ourselves 5 hours to complete the task, the chances are we're going to take 5 hours to complete that task. If we give ourselves a set amount of time to do the task, the chances are we will consume all of that time because we've said to ourselves it's okay to take that length of time to do it. Whereas if you actually set the bar a little bit higher and say that I'm only going to take 2 hours instead of 5 hours, the chances are you probably can do it in that time. And if we apply that to all the tasks we want to do, the chances are we can probably achieve more in a far reduced time, and therefore freeing up more time for us doing the things that we want to be doing. Okay, so if you've made it this far, hopefully you'll take away from this the fact that our time is our most finite and precious resource, and the less time that we spend on the things that we need to do, the more time we can spend on the things that we want to do. And being really selective about how we use our time is going to help us achieve that. If you found this video useful, please consider liking it and putting a comment on the video. Please consider subscribing to the channel as well, it'll really help me out a huge amount. Hopefully you liked the video. Thanks again, have a good one. Catch you in the next one.